live now. Real ones all around. Hello again, it's been a while. I haven't been making videos as usual because I've been very busy with all kinds of things. Most importantly, of course, the game. And I feel like this is now, I think, the 6th entry in this video log series. And I haven't really been doing much in terms of gameplay. I've mostly been doing talking. So I felt this time is a good time to dive into that. Mostly because I'm also at a good state where it actually makes sense to look at something. I mean, I've now made a website for the game, Mazestalker.com. Check it out. You can, well, while I am currently undecided if I can actually enable my Steam workshop, because there's a lot of pros and cons to that. Definitely you can sign up for the newsletter there, which would be much appreciated. But working on that, for example, I noticed that my approach is working, where I work on bits and pieces whenever I have like an idea or I really need to put something down. I do that, whether that be writing, whether that be design work, whether that be programming work or visual work, and as a result, when I was making the website, actually almost everything I needed was already there, and that is actually currently the theme of the project in general, because I'm getting to the point where I always push for the little. I have to do by myself. I have a to-do list of 100,000 things. So I usually push into it, and I really give my best and go through a couple of points. But no matter how many points I make, there's many more left, which is on one hand frustrating, and on the other hand leads me right into a burnout every single time. But we're getting to the point where actually most of these points are done, and I can plug things together. Okay, wait a second, cat, can you stop doing that? We're not licking the keyboard, okay? It's not food. Sorry. So let us take the gamepad. I'll be recording the footage on this other side. Okay, I'll start here. I intend to take a slice of what I have and release it as a demo in the relatively soon future. So it will contain a dungeon. If you go to my website right now, you can see that I have gameplay of that shown there, but for the purpose of this video, of course, I don't have to abide by the dungeon, and I can show you a little bit more than that. I think I explained in the past that I decided to write my game in chapters, so right now I'm very focused on making chapter 1. I've made most of the content for it. Cat, stop licking everything. Food later. Here is the miscreant. Say hello, Lily. Oh, I'm gonna get it if I don't put her down. So I'm currently trying to make all the areas I need for the introduction of the game. I've built most of the content anyway. It's just that only recently I developed everything I need for like cutscenes and dialogues and event-based things, and that is what I have to put in. So it's a lot of paint by the numbers that's left. I don't want to talk too much about this earlier area actually, because that's for much later in the game. But I like to open with a mystery, since this is sort of the theme of my game, having mysteries for each dungeon, for each story section. It's very important to me that you don't just play through a level. There also needs to be, a motivation and something that drives you beyond the thing that's like, that probably most gamers know, where it's like, I want to see what item I'll get next. There should be something that's interesting you beyond that, and I made sure that every dungeon has something like that. Yeah, this is one of the first areas. I'm still lacking a character here. which makes me very nervous, because it's a very important character that gets introduced in this area. I hope that my designer can come up with something soon. Because usually we need like half a year to get one character designed, which is not so great, but oh well. As long as the work is good, which it usually is, what can I do? But this is like one of the few pieces that are missing and that are really making me feel awful, because without it I cannot finish this whole section. Yeah, this is like the first area, and the point is, I never wanted to build this stuff right now. I like this philosophy of building a whole game and then making the first area last, when you have a deep understanding of what you're making and so on. But I realized when I made this chapter structure, well, I have to have chapter 1 if I want to release anything at all. So I had to start building all these early areas, but they don't contain the crazy stuff that I want to do. If you look at my Mario Maker videos, for example, I started building those elaborate Zelda dungeons in there, right? And what the data point that stuck with me back then was mostly how the completion rate is like 0.5% or something ridiculous like that. And the reason for that is that, to get someone to commit to a really difficult and crazy thing, I think you need to introduce a certain flow of things, Things need to build up gradually. You can't just start with a super hard Kaido type level. I mean, for some people you can, but for the general mass of people that will consume a game, that's a very bad idea. So in order to create this flow, the first chapter has to be very tame, introduce you slowly to all the things, but not too much. And what you can see here is a little perspective puzzle, where, the solution is that there's just a block in the background and you can jump on that, and then you can climb the structure and get the treasure. And this is just meant to be like a teaser of what's to come later in the game. Of course, for now we have not much of that, because it can be very confusing, and before I want, how should I put it? Before I surprise people with crazy perspective shit, it's important to set their expectations, If they play through the game and it doesn't have that for a few hours, when I introduce it, then it has a much different effect than if I just fill the first area of the game with it. So I'm stuck with designing these tame, sanitized parts of the game, which is not very fun to me personally, but it has to be done. So stuff like this is honestly very uncommon at the early stages. I mean, when you look at the overworld, you will notice like there's a grid for everything, and you will probably think, like in 3D you can make, but no, that is the whole point. Like when I look at the game like Mazestalker, as a designer, I can look at the screen, it's extremely readable. I know exactly where I can go, where I cannot go, and this is extremely satisfying to me, for some reason. That's the reason why I think 2D based pixel sprites like visual styles have survived to this day, because they create these readable screens in which, when your game takes place, there's no confusion where you can go, where you can climb, where you can jump, like you have it in many 3D games. And you can focus on other things instead, which is really nice, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to stick to that, and why I even implemented the trees in such a manufactured way, so that is completely on purpose and not just laziness or something. Yeah, I mean, the town is nice. I haven't implemented the town folk yet. That's actually my next to do, but you can go into all the houses, explore a little bit, which is nice. I mean, once you see that all of this stuff works, it's a pretty good feeling. And I mean, I can already run around for like 15 minutes in this world, and everything is linked together and so on. And that was a lot of work. originally I had stairways here where you just walk up, but then I realized, you know, for me, this action of jumping things is what, you know, that's how Landstalker approached everything, and it just feels so nice to jump something up, and that's why I decided to design almost everything in the game in such a way that when it goes upwards you jump. Okay, great, this door here already breaks that rule, but but you know, in the general level geometry it's gonna be like that. This is a little bar area where the geometry gets a bit more complex because it has a second floor. It's not easy to design, but it seems to work quite okay, so I'm happy with it. Oh yeah, for the purpose of showing this, I am running around with the run button. That is an ability you get at the end of chapter 1, so not really part of all of this. But very early on, you know, the attention span of an audience is getting very short, I feel like. So a lot of indie games usually are extremely dense, you know, get to the action within 5 seconds and so on. And while I like to have a game where I can just, you know, walk around casually and enjoy myself and, you know, take in the atmosphere and everything, I do realize that a modern audience probably just wants to, especially later when there's quests or backtracking or something like that, just wants to speed through faster. So I decided really early on that there was gonna be a feature like that. Where we get into the first dungeon, which is, if things go as planned, gonna be released as a demo. As far as the first dungeon is concerned, all the event stuff is implemented. I mean, none of this interface stuff is final. The interface is really one of the things that are the most work. Never expected that, but I mean, you know, since I'm coming from the user experience field, I've been doing my fair share of interface design, but in a game engine it's a bit of a different animal, and it's definitely one of the most challenging parts of the whole development process so far. The part I want to get to is the boss fight, which, you know, originally that wasn't planned because this was supposed to be pretty much one corridor in the room with the treasure chest. But at some point I realized, well, you know, I was writing the first dungeon and it became really long, and first I thought, okay, did I do something wrong? But then I realized, you know, what's really important for me and why I am doing a Landstalker-like game is because it mixes 3 components, which is the platforming, the combat, and puzzling. And in order for all of these to work, they need to have a certain build-up, and since that's quite a bit, you know, for platforming you need to have your escalating difficulty for the combat as well. You want to have more complex combat scenario as you go through the dungeons, and the same goes for the puzzles, of course, which have to teach you mechanics. Like, all these 3 things combined make sure that a dungeon is actually a fairly complex and long affair. If I want to do it correctly, and so I couldn't really make the dungeon shorter, and as a result I decided to take the area that I had planned before, which is this cave, and turn it into an actual small dungeon. This is about the smallest I can actually manage. So. Yeah, on the video it takes, I speed through it in like 10 minutes. I think that the normal player would take like 15. Last thing I want to do is open a treasure chest, because, I mean, okay, so everything about this effect is currently broken, the timings are off and so on, but at least it's functional. So everything about this effect is currently off, but it's still, like, it was so much work to make something dynamic like this happen in the sub display. But, you know, like, technically everything works now. I just have to do a lot of bug fixing, a lot of fine tuning for this to really work and feel nice. And then finally, of course, the inventory, which is one of the last things that I need to fully implement in order to finish this dungeon and release it as a demo. So the inventory basically already works. I just have to like implement the items that you get, and so you can use them like healing items and so on. And yeah, and then I can release something playable. It was very important for me to make a video about the gameplay part for once and talk about that a little bit. So I hope I could give a nice overview of where things are headed. I'm personally very happy with the progress. It's going well. First chapter, I have most of the content in place. I just need to do a lot of filling in. But that shouldn't be a problem, and it's all playable, and I think it's quite fun, and the story is engaging as I was hoping it would be. So yeah, so much for the gameplay side of things. Who knows what I will be babbling about next time. You never know with me. See you again in 2030 or whenever the next video gets finished. Also check out my website and do all the call of actions there, you know, like Steam shop or email sign up. Alright, cool.